Bedagam, Kolattur. There are 17
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
ഹലോ, പറയുന്നത് കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ?
കേൾക്കാം.
ഉണ്ട്.
Hello.
Hello.
I am ready here. You only have to tell me when to start.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Hello. Hello.
Good evening and warm welcome to the fifth day of the International Seminar Series titled Reimagining Decentralization in Kerala, Local Governance for a Sustainable Future. I invite Sri B. Vijayan, Secretary of Dr. A. Suratkumar Library and Research Center, for the welcome speech.
Dear friends and respected guests, I have great pleasure to welcome you all to the fifth day of the International Seminars organized by the Dr. Suratkumar Library and Research Center and Gramina Padana Kendra, FSCT organizations with the help of the other agencies. Today's subject of the seminar is Gender Inclusive Local Economic Development Challenges of Kerala. Kerala become model state for all other states in India for many respects. It is through the different progressive activities done by the LDF government since 1957. Kerala become number one in various development and service sectors like education, health, industry, agriculture, own resources, etc. But in qualitative employment sector, we have a largest unemployment rate, especially in human participation. Now the Kerala government addressed this issue with the project of Vijnana Kerala. Through this, the educated youth will get employment according to their educational qualification and their whims and fancies. So this all will discussed in this international seminar. Today, the background note is presented by the former Finance Minister of Kerala and advisor of Vijnana Kerala, Dr. T.M. Thomas Isaac. My heartful welcome to Dr. T.M. Thomas Isaac, sir. I extended warm greetings to the speaker, Dr. Binida V. Thambi, Professor IIT Madras. Then my heartful welcome to Mini Sukumar, Planning Board member. I also welcome Dr. Mallika MG, Associate Professor, School of Development Studies, Malayalam University. My warm welcome to Sri B. Biju, former President, Block Panchayat, Nirumangad. Now I welcome Srimati Dhanya M, President, Bedrika Grama Panchayat, for sharing their experience. And I have great pleasure to welcome Sri Libby Johnson, Executive Director, Odisha Grama Vikas. And finally, our heartfelt welcome to the participants of the seminar. The participants are requested to put their opinion in the chat box. All material opinions will be considered and included in the final document published later. Once again, we welcome to all of you. Now I invite Dr. Mariama Sanu George to moderate this seminar. Madam, please.
Am I audible? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the seminar on gender inclusive local economic development challenges of Kerala. So, as we all know that Kerala's journey has been long recognized as a pioneering model of participatory governance. As we move toward a more inclusive and sustainable future, critical questions remain about how local economic development can become truly gender responsive, ensuring that women not only participate, but also lead and benefit equitably from economic transformation. While yesterday's session addressed the issues in gender inclusive governance, today's session we seek to unpack the challenges and opportunities of gender inclusive local economic development, identifying both the barriers and the pathways for building a gender just local economy. So we all know that we have achieved in many aspects, but Kerala has not progressed when it comes to certain factors like women's economic participation, ownership, that all remain disproportionately low. So such gaps invite us to ask deeper questions about how inclusive our development truly is and what more needs to be done to ensure that women are equal partners and leaders. So this seminar brings together an exceptional panel of thinkers, policymakers, and practitioners, each of whom has contributed significantly to shaping Kerala's development trajectory. So their insights will help us to reflect on what has worked, where gaps persist, and how we can move forward toward a more gender just and sustainable local economy. So now I invite all the speakers have been already introduced, so I'm not going into that aspect, but now we have 7 speakers. So the time, except for Thomas Isaac Sir, the rest of the speakers will have 10 minutes to speak, and our president, Ms. Dhanya, will have 5 minutes for speaking in Malayalam. She'll be speaking in Malayalam, and she'll also be sharing as a video. So now I request Dr. Thomas Isaac Sir to present the background note paper for this discussion. Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Yes. Put the PPT on.
So PPT will share here.
Okay. എന്തോ പറ്റിയതാ?
Yes, hung here.
Sir, come, sir. We can hear you, and the PPT is being shown here.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Dear colleagues and friends, I must congratulate Sudh Kumar Memorial Trust and Gramina Padana Kendra for this, I think, fantastic series of seminars. Unfortunately, I could attend only the opening seminar. I've been just too busy traveling elsewhere. But I've been hearing from everyone that the deliberations, presentations were excellent and very stimulating. And I want to contribute to this process. Now I will start from the opening presentation, which I also participated. Democratic decentralization in Kerala. What next? This is the question. The next would be local economic development. Now, the key link to local economic development, I feel, is the employment women. If local economic development is to be meaningful, it should lead to much higher labor participation of women. Now, this is the point I want to drive. If we are examining the last 30 years, what is the achievement, greater achievement of decentralization? In one sentence, it means poverty eradication. Multidimensional poverty index in 2023 is 0.55. Head-on count poverty ratio had come down to 7% 2011-12. And we are going to declare extreme poverty being eradicated from the state. And if you take any social index of development, well, Kerala is number one. And I would say the local governments have contributed very significantly to this outcome. Their involvement in health and education, nutrition, childcare, geriatric care, pensions, palliative, housing and other rural assets, drinking water, differently able condition of women, in all these sectors, very, very important contribution has been made by the local governments. But Madan's opening presentation also drew attention to our failures. The outcome failures, major outcome failure is local economic development, the performance of local governments in, say, development of agriculture, small-scale industry, etc., has been far below expectations. Second, the marginalized sections, particularly SC, ST, fisher folks, and so on, they haven't been fully mainstreamed. In fact, disappointing. And third, well, condition of women has improved, but status of women have not. And fourth, employment, local employment has also been very limited. In fact, we are forced to depend upon nearly 4 million migrant workers from outside. Second, there is also process degeneration, participation rate, participation in the deliberations and fora has declined. Transparency has received a setback, and tendencies for corruption is very evident. There is a routinization of planning, a lack of integrated approach. Madan gave a long, in fact, very interesting analysis of how the process has been degenerating. Now, how do we overcome this weaknesses, both in outcome and in the process? I, for one, is fully convinced we need another round of social mobilization as during the People's Plan period. And the challenge is, how do we do it? Look, in district planning, watershed planning, both of them were initiated in the last year of People's Planning Campaign. We attempted another round of social mobilization, not very successful. Waste management is a program that is still continuing, where we expectations was to become a mass movement. It has been effective, but it has not converted itself into a mass movement. Localizing SDG, well, that was yet another attempt for social mobilization with limited success. Local disaster management plan took off, but then COVID intervened. So various attempts to have a kind of social mobilization in support of decentralization process has not really taken off. And this is where I bring the possibility of an employment drive as a key link, which can initiate a large social mobilization, particularly of women. Why employment? Well, that's a felt need, first of all. Okay. Second, it has the potential of women's agency. See, women can be the agent of employment drive and has big potential of mobilization. Third, employment backward linkage is to local economic development. One of the major outcome failures of decentralization. So it will address also. And this mobilization has a potential for process transformation. And therefore, I think an employment-linked drive would be very, very important to overcome the present weaknesses in outcome and processes in the decentralization in Kerala. Now, there's a question. Why special focus on women employment? Well, simple fact. 95% of the male above 24 and 65, not just 25, 24 and 65 age are employed outside the house, while only 27% of the females are employed outside the house. It's a huge contrast. And there are 30, 40 migrant workers in Kerala. So there is local potential availability of employment. And male aspiration levels are much higher. Therefore, these local jobs, male won't be entering. That is our experience. But women are not going to step into those flat roles because complexity of women labor force participation rate is very, very complex. This is what I'll be spending some time to explain. Why do we require a movement, a social movement, to improve women labor force participation? Now, look, the different types of labor activities that women are employed in. So, what is labor force participation? Unlike men, this is so sensitive to what all activities we include in us labor. For example, if it's salaried women, then it's just 14%, but very visible. But if you are going to include household work as labor, well, then all women are employed, but it is invisible. So we have listed the activities with women, labor activities women are involved. In terms of this visibility, salary employed, most visible, and household work, most invisible. Now, this itself, how labor force, active labor work activity definition itself is so sensitive, should point to the complexity of women labor force. Now, let's take caste and male-female participation. You can see for the male, there is hardly any difference between castes. Okay, slight decline, you can say. But when it comes to women, well, not only all women participation rate is lower, it declines in the caste hierarchy. See, our caste hierarchical notions discounts labor outside the house. So caste is still a very important factor in determining labor force participation. As you can see from this graph, this is from 2017-18 PLF survey, but it doesn't give them a caste grouping like that, but it is extrapolated on the basis of the average participation rate. So this is one. Let's go the next test. Look how caste influences in education, you see. As our literacy, as the educational level of women rises, in fact, you will find participation rate coming down, and then only after higher secondary it begins to rise. It's a kind of U curve, weak U curve. That is the nature of LFPR, women participation. Or let's take, for example, income quintiles. Look at this once again. In fact, the labor force participation would be the lowest in the third quintile. We can call them middle class if you want. But then to tend to rise after that fourth quintile and fifth quintile. This, I don't want to go to an explanation of this phenomenon, but just one simple point I want to drive is this, that it is a very complex process. Take, for example, age, for example. Next one. Yeah. Look, women participation rate rises to 19 in 2024, then stays same till 29. Let's see, till 29. Why? Well, marriage, child. It's only after 29 it tends to rise. See? Slowly rises up to 40. So then finally you have, well, there's some mix-up, but this data presented is unemployment, high unemployment in youth. There's a huge risk, discourage effect of that unemployment is much higher among women. So much so it is 57% of the youth women, young women are unemployed. This has a tremendous discouraging effect upon labor force participation. Yes. So I'm just want to drive one simple point that such is the complexity of female labor force participation. You will need a big social intervention to push up the participation rate, take them to the employment at the local level. Now, social mobilization led by Kudumbashree and local governments for raising women participation across is missing to 50%. Well, how it could be done? Identification of local jobs for local governments, identification of women willing to take up employment should be through the NNGs, bridging the skill gap by the skill agencies with Anna Kerala, and social support to be provided by Kudumbashree. This is kind of model which I would propose for a campaign. Next. And there are many examples of Kudumbashree having intervened in this manner. One, Kudumbashree micro-enterprises, joint liability groups. These are very well known. But now what we are doing, we suggested, is that we move from self-employment to wage employment. The best experiences of such Kudumbashree's intervention in wage employment is Nallalam footwear cluster in Kozhikode, where with the industry, Kudumbashree was successful in training about 2,000 women in footwear manufacture. So much so, this this has spread, had a big spread effect, and this has become the most important cluster of footwear in Kerala. Or PK Kalan project in Alappuzha, where Kudumbasri intervention used the women agency to eradicate the extreme poverty among the Ulladar Adivasi group in Aleppi. Or Marine Apparel Park in Kuthuvarambu, where 600 women are being trained for placement in the apparel factory in Kuthuvarambu. Or Kochi Metro, or provisional service personnel, home shopping, care for care, and multitask skill teams, and so on. So there are many isolated successful employment drives of Kudumbasri. It's a question of generalizing it. Please. Proceed. Okay. Now, about 4 months back, a drive was started. The first phase of the campaign, August number, already local jobs numbering more than 1.5 lakh local jobs, 1.64 lakh local jobs have been identified. Nearly now, latest number would be more than 70,000 have been given placement. So it's going on. But weaknesses have been that local governments are too busy with the determined activities. Energies have not been active enough in identifying workers. And this is said to become program of the entire Kudumbasri. Now the target is 2 lakh jobs by New Year. It means certain Swandana Mitra caregivers, 30,000 caregivers to be given employment. Multi-skilled task team members, skill at call, 25,000. Shop at door, 25,000. Distributors, construction labor contract societies, 10,000. And this should take to 2 lakh jobs by New Year. Now, criticism. There has been serious criticism in the program that this campaign is confining to women to low-skill local jobs. But one has to remember this is a part of a larger Vijnana Keralam skill campaign. High-end skilling for college students is going on. In fact, that's going to be the flagship program of Vijnana Keralam. Today was the announcement by the Labour Minister for ITIs. Soon, polytechnics will follow, and then to be followed by arts and science colleges. Similarly, support for employment seekers women employment seekers who have completed studies for job outside, abroad, or high-end jobs. That is also there. And freelancing, work from home, working at home is also options available to women who can leave the locality. The above undertaken under Vijnana Keralam by accredited skill agencies. But for local jobs, it will be Kudumbasri and local governments who will be playing the key role. Yes. What is the impact of raising women participation rate to 50%? It would mean 30 lakh additional women employment, and it will generate 54,000 crores of additional income for families. That's a stunning number here. Even if, okay, you provide only 10 lakh, which is something feasible in a year, the low-hanging fruits are available. It would still mean something like 14,000 crores of rupees, going as income to the lower middle class families in Kerala. So it's an impact, economic impact would be tremendous. Second, women's entry into employment would raise issues regarding reduction of double burden. and security women at workplace. So it brings out change in the house and outside the house. 3, outside wage employment will create a new consciousness among women. And finally, it will create space for struggle, new spaces for struggle for equality, and take forward the target of equality, gender equality. Now, this is only a slide I have regarding LED. I didn't want to dilate too much upon it. The backward linkage, new brand campaign will bring LED into focus. How is the local economic development to be addressed issue? 1, technological transformation of agriculture. That's it. That's the key. The agriculture, see the joint liability groups that we have in Kudumbashree, that there is no conscious attempt of technological transformation. High precision farming and so on and so forth. So that even educated women can be involved, and with high productivity, they can undertake a small scale production. This is particularly the case of high precision farming. So, local economic development, a key link would be technological transformation. 2, there would have to be new cooperative agriculture institutions, farmer produce organizations, labor army, and so on and so forth, women service teams. So institutions for cooperation in cultivation, input availability, and also land and water management. And third, watershed planning, one step further backward. And then forward linkages, the agriculture would be value addition enterprises. Of course, there can also be non-agricultural enterprises, fine. But if agriculture has to succeed, value addition has to be inherent to it. And then digital platforms for aggregation. And finally, non-agriculture sector, there is always potential for MSMEs. Now, the local government, does not need necessarily be women enterprises. The local government intervenes in agriculture, attempting to raise productivity, have value addition enterprises in which women get employment, if not as entrepreneurs, but as wage workers. This is the new campaign. Yes. Now, important, this is also I want to just underline. Now we have a social mobilization campaign. This will address weaknesses. 1, energy has become very active, you see. It's not a place where you have microfinance alone. But apart from microfinance, now there'll be a new activity every week, finding an appropriate employment for one of the friends or member. This is something continuous activity. So energy has become active, reactivation of energies, which also raises possibility of them getting involved in local level planning and becoming community-based, basic community organization. 2, this cannot be undertaken with innovative planning, not routinized planning. 4, you have to adopt integrated approach. And reduction in unemployment would result in greater social mobility of marginalized sections. So the campaign will also address some of the process weaknesses. Yes, that's it. So Women agency in economic development will address some of the key weaknesses in the outcome and process of decentralization in Kerala and will contribute to improvement of women's status in Kerala. So, which is my proposition that what next? This is what should be the next. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for this insightful background paper, and it has raised our hopes and expectations, and we look forward. And now I request the next speaker, Dr. Binita Thampi. She's Professor IIT Madras, and she's been doing a lot of valuable research into women's participation, governance, and the gender dimensions of Kerala's development experience. Now over to you, Binita. 10 minutes you have.
Yeah, I'm offered 15 minutes in my invitation. Maybe you should honor that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I think I'm audible, right?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yes. So thank you for the invitation to respond to the background note presented by Professor Isaac on gender inclusive local economic development. That's the document that has been shared with me. And it's such a privilege, especially since he's my teacher, to respond to his presentation. So following are my responses, comments. I assumed that this particular document, 109 pages, will be a handbook that will be used in future. So I have looked at it carefully. So my first suggestion, perhaps a brief contextual note at the outset, help to frame the document, employment, the role of employment in economic development, social inclusion, yet women's work has historically been undercounted, undervalued. That, those who are trained are very familiar with this, but this has been widely used, I guess. So that broader contextualization is needed. Women's engagement in gainful, dignified, ILO calls it decent employment. Not only it contributes to household income, but also enhances agency, social mobility, all those arguments, and to sustain participation, supportive infrastructure, such as childcare, etc. So that broader intro may be helpful for anyone to enter into questions that is being detailed in the handbook on definitions of work, conceptual methodological issues in capturing women's work in general and in India. They can all come in one place. That is there in the handbook that has been shared, the draft document. But this introduction would be helpful. I was just also thinking perhaps a mention about Claudia Goldin's work, and she won the 2023 Nobel Prize, to make the point that this kind of work is worth winning Nobel. She basically looked at, her research was on women's labor market outcomes, tracing over 2 centuries of data, explored how women's participation in work evolved with education, women's family roles, and broader economic changes, and also showed that the gender pay gap largely stems from structural barriers and caregiving responsibilities rather than simple differences in skills or ambitions. So that's an important work in this context, I think, not been adequately discussed in academic forums. Coming to the Kerala context, the document has mapped the trends and challenges. Also, across social groups, we can bring in more material. The difficulty was some of the charts and tables their sources have not been cited explicitly, and was not clear sometimes whether it is referring to Kerala or India. Maybe it's a draft and it can be easily rectified. Basically, the document discusses the new initiatives for generating wage employment for women in Kerala. It is quite encouraging that the state acknowledges the limitations of self-employment, which can often border on self-exploitation, and it's now shifting focus towards generating wage employment. It's a significant policy shift. The approach, however, seems to focus primarily on supply side factors. While it is argued that there is adequate labor demand, women's employability depends on targeted upskilling and training. So the argument is that 1/5 of Kerala's workforce comprises migrant laborers, indicating existing labor demand that could, in part, be met by local women. However, most of these jobs are unskilled jobs. With appropriate upskilling, women could take on some of these jobs, for example, in construction. So in the construction, if you look at, there is this bulk labor recruited by intermediaries. They are mobile, move this labor from location to another location. And also there is this sport labor market. And in manufacturing sector, they are there in plywood and related industries, variety of industries. Migrant workers are drawn to Kerala due to relatively high wages, and there is clear labor market segmentation that should be better captured in by studies. We don't have, I think we don't have a very clear understanding of the labor market segmentation, meaning the kind of work that the migrant workers are doing and the areas where local labor is dominating. We have an overall idea, but location specific details are actually needed. In some occupations, local women could replace migrant workers or even local male workers at lower wages. The Geo-Reliance Incentive Commission model that has been mentioned in the report is an example of that. So the criticism that Professor Isaac just now mentioned, that it is pushing again women to low wage employment is a concern. And additionally, the sustainability of these jobs need to be considered. What are the measures required to ensure continuity, stability of the employment that has been generated? The upskilling programs seem to come under the annual projects of local governments. In some districts, in the document I've seen, higher financial pooling hasn't necessarily translated into significant employment generation. And this gap warrants further exploration. In Kerala, internet access is considered a basic right. K-Phone project aims to ensure connectivity for all, especially BPL households. Expanding and maintaining this network is crucial. And I was thinking aloud, is there a scope for a digital literacy campaign from that formal literacy to digital literacy? In any case, you have the service available. So the document mentions that the target of creating 1 lakh additional jobs by the second week of October, that's over. Has this been realized? This is a question. The areas identified for job creation include responsible tourism, MSCs, trade and services, caregiving, construction, so on and so forth. So MSCs small and medium enterprises, the document says there are 3.5 lakh registered units and 7.5 lakh workers. And the assumption is that migrant workers are there. Maybe we need, in order to understand the potential, we need the size distribution of these enterprises to help develop strategies. In trade and services, migrant labor is often recruited through intermediaries, agents with commissions and also paid commissions paid and housing is provided. This has been mentioned in the document. So, but often these costs, additional costs are reflected in wages. If you look at intermediaries also provide incentives like bulk, rice, packets, or consumer goods, television sets. It's creating basically mechanism for disciplining labor and sort of controlling over spaces of social reproduction. They often do overtime work with no adequate compensation, and hence there is no guarantee that local women workers would be preferred as replacement. This K4 Care suggestion is a very timely and essential initiative for the coming years. While it promotes affordable care, this is often achieved again by cutting women's wages. The program should be explored better ways to recognize women's care work and ensure daily minimum wage 700 for care workers. That's something the protesting workers are asking for in such a context. And that's not just in Kerala, broadly all over India, you have similar kind of organizing and protesting. So there is also some thinking on the minimum wage question. Home delivery of Kudumbashree products and local shop goods holds promise. However, women's representation, if you look at participation on delivery platforms like Swiggy, Zomato, if you look at, is very minimal. And there are significant safety concerns for women. So these services could particularly perhaps cater to certain groups such as elderly population and their emergency medical needs, so on and so forth. But it has potential. Community kitchens, again, successfully experimented during the pandemic and later in several locations as well, can help reduce the double burden of working women. The feasibility basically should be assessed probably among 20 to 30% of the households at the bottom of the income ladder. Mapping and identifying vulnerable pockets, targeting elderly, and demonstrating kind of cost effectiveness of these community kitchen is important. And such initiatives could also serve those needing temporary support, can also include migrant workers. So that's an excellent intervention. There is another, I'm not elaborating, but just a point on this practical and strategic gender needs. There are a lot of criticism to bring in this kind of separation. It's arguing that it's often artificial and fluid. So maybe we don't need that kind of, there are occasions wherein practical gender needs are crucial than the strategic. So that separation has been, several scholars have criticized it. The final chapter of the document discusses institutional arrangements to lead these employment generation initiatives. emphasizing how to utilize the demographic dividend for inclusive economic development. I often wonder why in those discussions, I have seen many scholars bringing in the experience of China, but comparing Kerala with China it doesn't help. China is so different. And a minor editing suggestion from my side, remove the term Vitamma, housewife. That's much more helpful. Few additional points. We know that the latest 2023-24 periodic labor force survey, according to that, Kerala's work participation rate is 34%. The employment rates are higher among SC and ST. This has been mentioned already. 64 and 45% of those who are employed are in low-skilled, low-paid elementary occupations. And compared to OBCs, it's 28% and 14% for general category. So I was just thinking maybe SC/ST groups should be prioritized for better paying new employment opportunities. Also, if you look at the work participation rate of Muslim women in Kerala, 16%, half of that of Hindu women. So there should be a strategy for including them as well. And it is also mentioned in the presentation that female unemployment rate is 3 times the national average at 15%, according to 23-24 PLFS. The share of young women, this is also mentioned, 15 to 29 age, the NEET category, those who are not engaged in education, employment, or training, is 41% in Kerala. And 86% of these women have undergraduate degree or higher. Also, if you look at multiple indicator survey data to the 2020-21, the share of women with at least one basic ICT skill is 40% in Kerala as against 18% in India. And also those who share of women who use a cell phone with an active SIM card in the past 3 months, 40% in India and 78% in Kerala. So basically, we need to argument here is that NEET category is very high. They just don't do anything. We need to focus on this group. How do we focus is the question. Just one suggestion is that it's important to focus on integrating skill adaptability into 4-year UG program we have. I have actually looked at the syllabus of 3 universities in Kerala. Very disappointing. We have hurriedly introduced FI UGP, even though we had an excellent commission report, Shaminan commission report with fabulous suggestions. We couldn't do it. Practicalities are a different question. I'm not getting into it. So the point basically is that it is not about whether you hold a particular skill at a particular moment, but your ability to gather such skill and use them. So that has to be part of the undergrad education. I'm stopping here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Binita, for a very detailed and in-depth analysis you have done actually. And I don't know whether the listener participants may not know that you had also done a very detailed analysis of the document shared to you. So thank you very much. And we go to the next speaker, Mini Suguma. She's member of the Kerala State Planning Board, feminist, activist, and she has been deeply involved in gender mainstreaming within governance and policy process for a very long time. Over to you, Mini.
Thank you, Nirmala. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. So, thank you for inviting me to respond to this document by Dr. Thomas Isaac. And I also congratulate the Suhrat Kumar Library for convening such a wonderful, fabulous series of lectures over 10 days. And yesterday also I was part of the discussion on gender and governance. It was also very inciting that all these speakers bring out very new vision and new suggestions about how we can move forward and in our already experimented work of gender and governance in Kerala. So I thank you, Binita, for giving a detailed response to the document. So my job is much easier now. She has done a very detailed analysis of the handbook, which is very valuable and helpful to make it to make it more readable and more precise, and especially about the arguments and about the sources. She made a very detailed discussions, detailed suggestions. And I'm also supporting many of those points regarding that. And I'm not repeating those points which is already mentioned by Binita. And I think when we are thinking about the women in local economic development, first of all, we have to carefully understand the profile of the women in the contemporary moment. Like, we have to consider the women with multiple identities and their needs and aspirations, especially the women in the age group from 20 to 60, because they are more active, or 20 to 50, in the age group of 20 to 50, which are more active in the field of employment in our state. So the Kudumbashree network has already proved its efficiency to bring out women into the public sphere, into the economic process, and also into the political sphere of Kerala. And the last few years, we know that our achievements in terms of growth and development is also very high, but somehow this is not reflected in the female labor force participation. So one of the major struggle still we are continuing with that, encouraging the women to come out of their homes and part of the employment sector. So in that context, what is the aspiration of the women at present for their job and employment is very important. That's one thing I want to specify, because it is much different from what we have imagined 25 years before. It is much different, because the women who came to part of this Kudumbashree network, they played a very important role in raising their daughters with good education, and to good education, courage, and come forward to engage with new horizons of employment and life. So that is one thing we need to address. And in the urban areas, we are seeing an improvement of the labor force participation. And in some sectors also, we are seeing an improvement of women's labor force participation, because the benefit of high literacy and education helped a lot to achieve some of these changes in those areas. And the major challenge we are facing is that the major challenge in increasing the women's workforce participation in Kerala is primarily one of enabling opportunities for an educated workforce, enabling creation of new good jobs, and facilitate women's entry to work. Binda has already mentioned that compared to other parts of the country, the women workforce in Kerala is much more educated and much more exposed into the media exposure, and also with the media exposure, as well as their skills, digital skills are also much higher. So they are more exposed into the new areas of work, and they have higher aspirations. So our major challenge is how to create those type of good jobs, quote unquote good jobs, which give more remunerative and which is more engaging, less repetitive, like that. That is one thing. And the second thing is, how can we address the issue of gendered expectations around unpaid care work by women at home, and lack of flexible employment arrangements in our employment sector. We are not, ILO and many other organizations are suggesting flexible employment arrangements for women, but it's not available for us. And new opportunities and the safety concerns, which include safe transport, safer accommodations, mobility, violence-free spaces within and outside their homes. All this create different types of controls over women's employment, their ability or their agency, which Dr. Thompson was talking about, their agency. So what are the hindering issues or the controlling mechanisms which prevent or reduce women's agency? Is we have to address those things. And again, how to ensure certain standards of decent work, like minimum wage, better working conditions, and opportunities for upward mobility in their career and work. And also how to we address the work-life balance. In Kerala, this is one of the least important thing, that how we can ensure a work-life balance for women at different employment sectors. So, and many of these women who are educated, they are opting out from the employment as a self-choice, because of the opportunity cost of going to an employment is much higher, and they are getting a very lower type of remuneration, and they have to pay more for their childcare and other facilities. And how we can provide those facilities for women, that should be part of our planning now. So we are, in many of our discussions, we are seeing it as a separate thing, but it has to be part of the planning. Then only we can ensure and give an encouragement for the women who want to come to this field. And the emerging issues of employment, like the informality or the precarity of employment, and the new sector of platform-based jobs, women are experimenting with all these things. And again, the entrepreneurship many of the startups, the tourism sector, and many sectors now women are start experimenting. And while they are start experimenting those sectors and new avenues of employment, how we can support them, how the local government and the state government mechanisms, how we can support them. So we have to think about what are the supporting structures we need to build up at this moment to attract more women into that. And that should be starting from the local level to the higher level employment. Then only we can invite or attract more women into that sector. So recently, for the last few, especially after the COVID, we are seeing many women are engaging into this non-traditional sectors like business, startups, and online business, the e-commerce things, etc., etc. So there also we can see a sort of increase in women's participation in those sectors, but we are not counting it into our discussions. So we have to have a clear picture about what are the new directions into which the young women are going to, and also what are the success stories we have in terms of women's employment in the last few years. And we are seeing that there is an increase of the salaried regular employment in Kerala for women, mainly in the private sector. Mainly it is in the private sector, and the private sector means in the textiles or in the many of these business firms and all. In there, mainly in the accounting and other jobs which need education and some sort of skill training, it is increasing. So more women are coming into those areas also. But they are also not getting any sort of support for their to share their unpaid care work. So in the private sector with regular salaried employment, there is an increase. We are seeing an increase there. And also more women and girls are willing to go outside the country and work there. And the statistics shows that the return migrants also, women's number is very less compared to men, because women are getting better jobs because they are better educated or professionally educated, like nurses and paramedical staff and other. So they are better educated there. All these pointers are giving us some understanding about how our young generation is thinking, especially women are thinking about their jobs, their how much they are getting or remunerated for their jobs, etc. And another thing which already Binada has already mentioned, that also, how can we monetize or capitalize the need for this care work or the care burden in our society? How we can monetize it through starting more childcare centers, more other type of supporting centers, through better training and better facilities with the technological support and with the good environment, and maybe subsidized and paid in different sectors. Some centers may be on free and some on subsidized, on some on the higher side also. But there we need a more organized type of training support for skilling the women, and also to organize them into certain very structured type of facilities. And how can we monetize these opportunities of care needs, the opportunities of these care needs into employment sector? That also we have to think about. So in my understanding, I think we have to think at different levels and understanding the aspirations and also give a clear signal to ensure the standards of decent.
And I here like to recall that under his leadership, and he was the president with the technical support of JPK, led by our Dr. Sud Kumar, the Panchayat pioneered a comprehensive social audit of a scheme, which I think was a remarkable example of participatory governance. I thought I should highlight here because it was Dr. Sud who had led from GPK. And now it's over to Mr. Biju. Biju. You have 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you, madam. First of all, I congratulate Dr. T.M. Thomas Isaac sir and other dignitaries who participated in this seminar. Let me permit to present my ideas and experience in Malayalam so as to express smoothly. Madam, okay.
Yes.
യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ തോമസ് ഐസക് സാർ അവതരിപ്പിക്കപ്പെട്ട ഈ ഡോക്യുമെന്റ്, ഈ സബ്ജക്റ്റ് സ്വയം പരിശോധനയ്ക്ക് കൂടി വിധേയമാക്കേണ്ട ഒന്നാണ് എന്ന് കരുതിയാണ്, എന്നുകൂടി ഉൾക്കൊണ്ടുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഞാൻ ചർച്ചയ്ക്ക് ഇവിടെ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്നത്. ഇവിടെ അവതരിപ്പിക്കപ്പെട്ടതും കൂട്ടിച്ചേർക്കപ്പെടുന്ന ചർച്ചകളുമെല്ലാം നവകേരള കാലത്ത് ഏറ്റവും പ്രാധാന്യമുണ്ട് എന്നുള്ളത് കൊണ്ടും പരിമിതമായ സമയത്തിൽ പരമാവധി പറയുക എന്നുള്ള ആ ഉത്തരവാദിത്വം ഞാൻ ഒരു പോയിന്റ് ഔട്ട് ചെയ്ത് പറഞ്ഞു പോവുകയാണ്. നേരത്തെ മാഡം സൂചിപ്പിച്ചതുപോലെ കഴിഞ്ഞ 2020 വരെയുള്ള 5 വർഷക്കാലം ഡോക്ടർ സുഗർ സാറും പഠനകേന്ദ്രത്തിന്റെ പ്രവർത്തകരാകുകയും എന്റെയും എൻ്റെ ഭരണസമിതിയോടും ഒപ്പമോ അതിന് മുന്നിലോ നടന്ന് മധ്യതലത്തിൽ പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്ന ബ്ലോക്കിന്റെ പ്രസക്തി എന്ത് എന്ന് രാജ്യത്തിനും സംസ്ഥാനത്തിനും മാതൃകയായിട്ടുള്ള പദ്ധതികളിലൂടെ തെളിയിക്കപ്പെട്ട ഒരു കാലമാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ കാലം എന്ന് അടിവരയിട്ട് സൂചിപ്പിക്കുക. ഞാൻ എന്തായാലും ഡോക്യുമെന്റിലേക്ക് സാർ അവതരിപ്പിക്കപ്പെട്ട രേഖയിലേക്ക് കടക്കുകയാണ്. സാർ അവതരിപ്പിക്കപ്പെട്ട രേഖയെ 13 പോയിന്റുകളായി ഞാൻ ചുരുക്കി അവതരിപ്പിക്കും. ഒന്ന്, സുസ്ഥിര വികസനത്തിന് സ്ത്രീ പങ്കാളിത്തം സുപ്രധാനമാണ് എന്നുള്ളത് ഞങ്ങളുടെ കൂടി അനുഭവത്തിൽ ഞങ്ങൾ അടിവരയിട്ട് സൂചിപ്പിക്കുക. കേരളത്തിൽ അതിന് പറ്റിയ സാഹചര്യം ഉണ്ടോ എന്നുള്ളതാണ് അടുത്ത വിഷയം. കേരളത്തിന് അതിന് പറ്റിയ സാഹചര്യം, സാമൂഹ്യ സാഹചര്യം നിലവിലുണ്ട്. എങ്കിലും സ്ത്രീകളുടെ പൂർണ്ണ പങ്കാളിത്തം വിവിധ മേഖലകളിലും ഇന്നും ലഭിക്കുന്നില്ല എന്നുള്ള ഒരവസ്ഥയാണ് നിൽക്കുന്നത്. സാമ്പത്തിക വികസന പൂർണ്ണതയിലെത്താൻ തൊഴിൽ മേഖലയിലെ സ്ത്രീ പങ്കാളിത്തം അനിവാര്യമാണ് എന്ന് നേരത്തെയും ഇപ്പോഴും സാറിന്റെ പ്രബന്ധങ്ങളിലൂടെ വായിച്ചറിഞ്ഞ് തിരഞ്ഞെടുക്കപ്പെട്ട വേദികളിലേക്ക് വന്നവരാണ് ഞങ്ങളെല്ലാവരും. ഏറ്റവും ഉദാഹരണം, സ്ത്രീ ശാക്തീകരണത്തിന്റെ ഉദാത്ത മാതൃകയാണ് കുടുംബശ്രീ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു വെക്കുമ്പോൾ കേരളത്തിലെ ആകെയുള്ള സ്ത്രീകളിൽ, വനിതകളിൽ എത്ര ശതമാനം ആളുകളാണ് കുടുംബശ്രീയിൽ അംഗമായിട്ടുള്ളത്, എത്ര പേർ പുറത്തുണ്ട് എന്നുള്ളത് വളരെ ഗൗരവത്തോടെ നാം കാണേണ്ട വിഷയമാണ്. കഴിഞ്ഞ 5 വർഷക്കാലം ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഭരണകാലയളവുണ്ടായിരുന്ന നെടുമങ്ങാട് ബ്ലോക്ക് പഞ്ചായത്തിന്റെ ഭരണകാലത്ത് ജൈവഗ്രാമം പദ്ധതിയിലൂടെ, ജൈവസഭയിലൂടെ, വല്ലന്തറ പദ്ധതിയിലൂടെ, മൂല്യവർദ്ധിത ഉൽപ്പന്നങ്ങൾ വിപണിയിൽ എത്തിക്കുന്ന സമൃദ്ധി പദ്ധതിയിലൂടെ, ഏറ്റവും അവസാനം പരിസ്ഥിതി വിഷയമായ കിള്ളിയാർ വിഷനിലൂടെ സോഷ്യൽ ഓഡിറ്റിലേക്ക് എത്തുമ്പോൾ സ്ഥിരം പരിചിതമായ മുഖങ്ങൾ മാത്രമാണ് ഇത്തരം കാര്യങ്ങളിൽ ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ മുൻപിൽ വന്നിട്ടുള്ളത് എന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ കഴിയും. എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ കുടുംബശ്രീയിൽ ഉള്ള ആളുകളായിരുന്നു ഏറ്റവും മുകളിൽ. എന്നാൽ പുതിയ ആളുകളെ ഇതിനകത്തേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരുന്ന കാര്യത്തിൽ ഞങ്ങൾ ആഗ്രഹിച്ചതുപോലെ കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടില്ല എന്നുള്ളത് സ്വയം വിമർശനപരമായി ഞങ്ങൾ തന്നെ കാണുന്ന, ഇത് എല്ലായിടത്തും ഉള്ള ഒരു പൊതു രീതിയാണ് എന്നാണ് മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത്. ഇതിൽ നിന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് പറയാനുള്ളത്, എനിക്ക് എൻ്റെ അനുഭവത്തിൽ പറയാനുള്ളത്, നയരൂപീകരണ പ്രക്രിയയിൽ സ്ത്രീകളുടെ രാഷ്ട്രീയ പങ്കാളിത്തം ഈ അനുഭവത്തിന്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ അനിവാര്യമാണ് എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. 2, കേരളത്തിൽ അടുത്ത ഒരു പോയിന്റ് ആയിട്ട് പറയാനുള്ളത് കേരളത്തിലെ ഉയർന്ന സാക്ഷരത. ആ ഉയർന്ന സാക്ഷരത ഉണ്ടായിട്ട് പോലും തൊഴിൽ മേഖലയിൽ തുല്യ പങ്കാളിത്തം ഇന്നും സ്ത്രീകൾക്ക് ഉറപ്പുവരുത്താൻ കഴിയുന്നില്ല എന്നുള്ള ഒരു അവസ്ഥ ഇന്ന് കേരളത്തിൽ നിലനിൽക്കുകയാണ്. കേരളത്തിൽ ഇപ്പോഴും സ്ത്രീകൾക്ക് സാമൂഹ്യ, സാംസ്കാരിക, ആരോഗ്യ മേഖലയിലടക്കം അതിർവരമ്പുകൾ നിലനിൽക്കുന്നു എന്നുള്ളത് വളരെ ഗൗരവമായി കാണണം എന്നാണ്. സാമ്പത്തിക സ്രോതസ് അവർക്ക് മൂല്യവർദ്ധിത ഉൽപ്പന്നം ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ തൊഴിൽ മേഖലയിൽ സംരംഭകത്വത്തിലേക്ക് കടന്നു വരാനുള്ള അവസരമുണ്ടോ എന്നുള്ളതാണ് മറ്റൊരു ചോദ്യം. സാമ്പത്തിക സ്രോതസ് സ്ത്രീകൾക്ക് ലഭ്യമാകാത്തത് ഒരു കാരണമാണ് മതിയായ വിധത്തിൽ. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ സംരംഭകത്വത്തിൽ സ്ത്രീകൾ ഇന്നും പിന്നിലാണ് എന്നുള്ളത് നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ കഴിയും. അത് പറയാനുള്ള കാരണം അന്ന് ഞങ്ങളുടെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട മുമ്പുള്ള ചർച്ചകളിൽ പ്രധാനമായി ഊന്നൽ നൽകിയിരുന്നത് ഈ ജനകീയാസൂത്രണത്തിന്റെ 2ാം കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ ഒരു ചർച്ചയിലൂടെ പലപ്പോഴും സുരസാർ ഉൾപ്പെടെ മുമ്പോട്ട് വെച്ച ഒരു ആശയം തദ്ദേശ സ്വയംഭരണ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളെ സഹകരണ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളുമായി യോജിപ്പിച്ചു കൊണ്ടുപോകണം. അത് തൊഴിൽ മേഖലയിൽ ഇടപെടാൻ വളരെയധികം സാമ്പത്തിക സ്രോതസ്സുകൾ എത്തിക്കാൻ ഗുണപ്രദമാകും എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. പക്ഷെ ഇന്നും വേണ്ടത്ര തോതിൽ ആ ഒരു ചർച്ച അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആ ഒരു തീരുമാനം വിലപ്പെടുന്നില്ല എന്ന് കാണാൻ കഴിയണം. മറ്റൊന്ന്, സ്ത്രീ ശാക്തീകരണത്തിലുള്ള നയരൂപീകരണം എവിടെ നിന്ന് തുടങ്ങണം എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. ഇന്നത്തെ കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ ഇന്നത്തെ അവസ്ഥ മനസ്സിലാക്കി അടിത്തട്ടിൽ നിന്ന് സമൂഹത്തിന്റെ അടിത്തട്ടിൽ ലക്ഷ്യം വെച്ചുകൊണ്ട് തുടങ്ങണം എന്നൊരു അഭിപ്രായമുണ്ട്. അതിന് ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനം ബോധവൽക്കരണമാണ്. ഇനിയും ബഹുഭൂരിപക്ഷത്തെ നമുക്ക് മുഖ്യധാരയിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ, നേരത്തെ സാറ് സൂചിപ്പിച്ച നമ്മുടെ സംരംഭകത്വത്തിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ, അതുവഴി ലോകത്തിന് തന്നെ മാതൃകയായി നമ്മുടെ സ്ത്രീ ജനങ്ങളെ മാറ്റാൻ വല്ല തോതിലുള്ള ബോധവൽക്കരണം അനിവാര്യമാണ്. തദ്ദേശ സ്വയംഭരണ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങൾ നമ്മൾ എടുത്ത് പരിശോധിച്ച് നോക്കുമ്പോൾ എല്ലാ ഗ്രാമസഭ ഉൾപ്പെടെയുള്ള ഗ്രാമസഭകളിലടക്കം ഏറ്റവും വലിയ പങ്കാളിത്തം പുരുഷന്മാരെക്കാൾ സ്ത്രീകളിലാണ്. പക്ഷെ എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് തദ്ദേശ സ്വയംഭരണ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങൾ അവരുടെ നയരൂപീകരണത്തിലും വികസന പദ്ധതി രൂപീകരണത്തിലും സ്ത്രീപക്ഷമാണെന്നുള്ള പൊതുവിലുള്ള നിലപാട് സ്വീകരിച്ച് കാണാത്തത്? ഒരു വിമർശനമാണ്. ആ വിമർശനത്തെ മറികടക്കാനാണ് കഴിഞ്ഞ 5 വർഷം ബ്ലോക്ക് പഞ്ചായത്ത് വിവിധ പദ്ധതികളുടെ സ്ത്രീകളെ മുന്നിൽ നിർത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് പലതും ഞങ്ങൾ നടപ്പിലാക്കാൻ പരിശ്രമിച്ചത്. ഇപ്പൊ സ്ത്രീപക്ഷ മനസ്സ് സ്ത്രീപക്ഷമായിരിക്കണം. യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ ബഹുഭൂരിപക്ഷം തദ്ദേശ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളിലെ നയവും വികസന പദ്ധതികളും എന്നൊരു അഭിപ്രായം എനിക്ക് ഇതിനോടൊപ്പം ചേർത്ത് പറയേണ്ടത്. മറ്റൊന്ന്, സുസ്ഥിര പ്രാദേശിക വികസനത്തിന് സ്ത്രീ പങ്കാളിത്തത്തിന്റെ അനിവാര്യത ഉൾക്കൊള്ളാൻ നമ്മുടെ ലോക്കൽ ബോഡി ആകെ തയ്യാറാവുന്നുണ്ടോ എന്നുള്ളത് ഇപ്പോൾ ഈ കഴിഞ്ഞ ഒരു അനുഭവത്തിന്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ കൂടി പരിശോധനയ്ക്ക് വിധേയമാക്കിയാൽ മാത്രമേ നമുക്ക് ഇനിയും ഏറെ മുന്നോട്ട് പോകാൻ കഴിയുള്ളൂ എന്നുള്ള ഒരു അഭിപ്രായമാണ് അതുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് പറയാനുള്ളത്. വളരെ കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങൾ മാത്രം 13 ബുള്ളറ്റിട്ട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞ് ഞാൻ അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുകയാണ്. കാരണം വിലയേറിയ ചർച്ച, ഇനിയും അനുഭവങ്ങൾ പങ്കുവയ്ക്കാനുള്ള ഒരുപാട് നിരയുണ്ട്. എന്റെ 10 മിനിറ്റ് ഞാൻ പൂർണ്ണമായി എടുക്കുന്നില്ല. താങ്ക് യു വെരി മച്ച്.
Thank you, Mr. Biju. Actually, he has, from his experience, he has come out with 13 points, actually, very detailed. And due to lack of time, for the known Malayalis in this participating in this seminar, we will send you a translated version of his presentation, because there's a very good 13 points he has raised from his grassroots experience. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam.
Now we just move to the next presentation by Dr. Mallika MG. She's Associate Professor, School of Development Studies, and Tunjit Tirthaichan, Malayalam University. She's an economist, and she also focuses on gender development policy and the intersection of social justice, local planning, and inclusive economic strategies. Now I welcome Mallika. It's over to you, 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
I have some kind of internet connectivity issue, so if any problem, you just tell me. Okay, now I'm really happy that I can just get the chance to comment on the topic which is presented by my favorite teacher, Dr. Thomas Isaac sir. I'm just agreeing with the points which are put forward by Pinita Thampi and also Vinny Sukumaran. And they had given more importance to this care sector, care economy sector, especially Mini Sukumara had given more importance to care sector. So there I just have to point out the one diagram which had given by the 31st page, that Thomas Isaac had showed that Kerala's female participation, especially in the age group 19 to 29, that remains very in the stagnant form. Only in the 36, at the age of 36, their participation reaches its peak and then started declining. Okay, so this part had not explained much why it is happening. So what kind of policies we need to increase this participation, because especially in this educated labor force, this participation in the early ages are very important as far as their earning capacity and also their improvement in their career advancement, everything is concerned. So this stage, if they are out from this labor market, so that may be the major issue for this lower labor market participation of females in Kerala. And I'm not agreeing that Kerala's female participation is lesser. It's comparatively higher, and also it's very well documented that the U-shaped curve of female labor force participation, and the educated group will participate more. So exactly the same thing had happened in Kerala's case also. And in the labor participation figure, we can see that actually in this educated group, that means diploma certificate holders, their participant 48.8% of Kerala, these diploma holders are working, and graduates 40.8%, postgraduate 54%, and secondary above 34.8%. And this higher secondary below, the participation is lesser, but compared to in all India level, that these illiterates people and less educated people are participating more. And in Kerala, it's a very clear difference is seen in the case of the participation of the educated workforce. And also in the case of their labor force participation rate is also very high, post-graduation and above, 70.7% are in the labor market, but they are not getting adequate labor, this employment. So I just wonder, this kind of these educated females, why they are not entering the labor market, as clearly point out that there are double burden and all. So at the same time, we have to just consider the work time of the women, male and female. That is given in the time utilization pattern, that is the 2024 data which are given by this time use data. It shows that those who are working in the labor market also working in the household sector. 85% of the female who are working in the economic participation, so they are also engaged in this non-economic participation also. The total time, actual work time for women are higher, though their actual economic work time is lesser. So that means they are actually working, and this work should be identified, not in the sense that they are working, that the welfare, the point of view of the welfare is concerned, their works, the importance of their work should be identified. And one of my students had this tried to calculate, monetize this value of this domestic work, and found that minimum and on an average, LAD who contributed 14,000 rupees per month minimum for this in the area of domestic work. So when we are trying to give some kind of job opportunities to these people, at least more than 14,000 is they are getting, then only they will work. Otherwise, it is better for them to sit in the household and doing these works. So it's an economic decision. So what kind of other measures which we are taken in this part? Is it that the first we have to create a job, or after that we are just thinking about the care economy, creating care economy? Or first we have to think about creating care infrastructure, and then we have to think about the job opportunities? That is another thing. So there are so many studies. I think that Thomas Isaac sir had quoted the women participation in China. It shows that their participation is very high. There are a number of studies which shows that how China achieved this high labor force participation of women. It's only because of this care, the investment which are done in the providing childcare and all. There is a very high positive correlation, or the relationship which had seen that the care investment created increased the labor force participation of women. So that kind of investment, especially in the government's investment, because the private sector investment that had not created this opportunity for this lower income group to send their children into this kind of care activities. They are not able to get this facility. So that part had not given much importance in that paper. That's what I'm just, okay. It's mentioned that we have to just think about these care substitutes or care workers should be created. But who will be the care workers? So that part is very important. In this less educated labor market, still we have labor shortage. And in the higher educated labor market, there are surplus labor. So in that area, how we are going to this create care workers from our labor force? And this kind of what kind of job opportunities we are creating in Kerala, that part also should be discussed. And we are just seeing 99 onwards, Kudumbashree had started. The structure of labor market has changed. That means then when in 99 when we started during the 90s, at that time 32% of the labor work was actually from the self-employment area, but that has not increased, and the regular salaried job sector has increased. Now in women who are doing work, 50% of the work actually is a regular salaried job. That means educated people who are just finding some job in the regular salaried job market, and it's not, the share has not increased in the case of self-employment, and the cash and job that reduced. So that is why the U-shaped curve which emerged because of the poverty driven or the dragging poverty driven employment, that of course has reduced because of the increased government initiatives or the increased social welfare measures and all, of course. And then automatically in the educated and there's women should have entered in the labor market. But why this kind of steep increase is not happening? It's in that place we need to create more gender specific infrastructure rather than trying to create more job opportunities directly to women, because this care work and this kind of that kind of work we should create. The government have to spend more money on that, and definitely the women will be able to find their own job opportunities outside. That's what I had seen. Another thing is that Dr. Binita had mentioned that in this education and this graduation and post-graduation syllabus had not improved, that created not employability creation. But hello? Is it clear?
Yes, Malika, it's clear.
Okay. And then why this male labor market does not influence this kind of what is that this quality less syllabus as not reducing the job participation of male. So there's of course both this male and female are getting the same education, and male are getting more job and also more salary also. In this 2024 23-24 data which show that in Kerala, the labor market wage structure, we can see that in the case of casual labor, a male is getting 878 rupees, but a female here is getting only 412 rupees. That means a pay gap of 466 per day daily. So then in a household, why women have to go for work rather than male? Because this is an economic decision that male have to work because they are getting more salary. In the case of regular salary job also, we can see that the male is getting 25,311. At the same time, female is getting 17,939. Especially women are more educated than male. And also in the case of technical education also, we had not seen any kind of difference at presently, only very minute type of some kind of very specific, some kind of areas, all the spaces, all the education institutions, the women are getting the equal type of education, but their salary level is lesser. And also self-employment is a pathetic case. Self-employment, male are getting 19,000 rupees at the 20,000 rupees on an average. At the same time, female are getting only 6,000 rupees. So with this 6,000 rupees, why a woman should work? And also in self-employment and entrepreneur, they need 24 hours work. Their brilliance should be there. In a competitive world, if you want to sell a commodity, they need to involve much brain and time and effort. So at that time, all these kind of this time taken by the woman to work at home and outside, how they can be a successful entrepreneur. So if those who are succeeded, definitely may have some kind of a supportive system inside. And in Kerala, you know, in what is that nuclear family system, nobody is there to look after the children, and also an aging 20% of the population is aged, and their care and these kind of things are very important. And different, if those families which are having some kind of a differentially abled person, the women are definitely, the condition is pathetic. So the government have to give more importance to this care sector rather than directly giving some kind of jobs and all, because the existing last so many years we have created a number of job opportunities, training, these kind of things, but that had not created much job in that particular area. So that why it is happening, we have to just find out the studies which are done earlier. So in especially in those countries where women's participation has increased, they had given more importance to childcare and old age care and all these kind of things. So definitely we need to create first that kind of gender specific infrastructure, and then definitely the women will go. And also here, you know that whatever be the things which we are saying, an educated woman actually, they actually don't, there is no other infrastructure facilities for them to go and apply for a job, because it's hostels are there, but there is no such facilities for a woman to come with a child to go for an interview or participate in a discussion or a political discussion. Nothing is there. So we had not created a society where we are understanding the basic needs of a woman. So without understanding, it's a not gender neutral policy. We need a gender specific infrastructure should be there, because we should just see this infrastructure, the development, the health sector, everything in the point of view of gender. And also another thing is that in the childhood curriculum, we need to incorporate this kind of changes, because in the cooking, caring, and all these kind of things are basically should be learned from this school curriculum, childhood curriculum. But we never had thought about that kind of things to included in our curriculum. So basically, this is not the employment, the lack of employment or this labor market participation is not because of this kind of the women are not skilled or not getting training or nothing, but because of the care work burden those women are facing. And it's not because the women doesn't want to go out, but they want to go out, but there is no other option for them to go out. Another one more point I just have to mention. And in this fisherman community, I had done some kind of studies because Malappuram, basically I'm teaching in Malappuram, and the women work participation is very low. And also in fisherman community, especially in fisherman community, the work participation of women is only 13% in the this 15 to 18 to 60 age group, 15. And within this 15, only 5% is economically active. That means 10% is self-employed, unpaid family worker. They are supporting their household, the shops or something. So this sector, Kudumbasri, is not active because they are not able to, this in the money, weekly thrift, no, that 50 rupees or something, they are not able to pay that because only the male member is the earning member. Their income is also not in a good, not that much sufficient enough to survive. Then this 50 rupee is having more value than what we think. Then they are not able to continue this Kudumbashree and its collapse. So specific policy should be there for our these kind of marginalized sections. And also we need to have policies, specific policies for these sections. Local self-governments have to just think about what is the actual problem of the society and to create accordingly and to generate this kind of care substitute rather than giving 1,000 rupees or something as a pension. We need to take care of these marginalized groups because these groups are in the first stage and all the other people are in the third stage, and these people should get special attention. And especially these women who are very poor, because this Kudumbashree is actually a poverty eradication measure. Those very poor, really poor women, doesn't have there's a space in this Kudumbashri, because Kudumbashri is concentrating more on secondary breadwinner category. It's not primary breadwinner. Those who are primary breadwinner have to just find out some other job outside. So it's from the personal experiences and also from the this data which I collected, I just mentioned. Thank you for calling me and to get an opportunity to comment on this the very important document which is presented by my teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maliga, for the detailed analysis and reinforcing the challenges. Now we are just running out of time also. Now, Jacob Gram Panchayat from Kasaragod district. Now she will be giving us 5 minutes. It will be in Malayalam. Then she will be showing.
Hello,
Yes, Keka.
ma'am. Can you hear me talking?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I don't know how to speak English.
No, you can
I
speak in
only speak Malayalam.
ഒരു പ്രശ്നമില്ല മലയാളത്തിൽ പറഞ്ഞാൽ മതി.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. സുസ്ഥിര വികസന ലക്ഷ്യങ്ങളിൽ സ്ത്രീ പങ്കാളിത്തം വളരെ മികച്ചതാണ്.
കേൾക്കാം, പറഞ്ഞു.
നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിനകത്ത് നേരത്തെ തോമസ് ഐസക് സാർ പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ കുടുംബശ്രീ രംഗത്ത് വലിയ മുന്നേറ്റമാണ് ഈ ഒരു 5 വർഷ കാലയളവിലും ഇതിനു മുന്നും നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിനകത്ത് നമുക്ക് നടത്താൻ സാധിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത്. നിരവധി സംരംഭങ്ങളിലൂടെ നിരവധി സ്ത്രീകൾക്ക് തൊഴിൽ നൽകാൻ നമുക്ക് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിനകത്ത് 20ഓളം സ്ത്രീ തൊഴിലാളികൾ അടങ്ങുന്ന അപ്പാരൽ പാർക്ക് യൂണിറ്റ് പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. സ്ത്രീകളുടെ ഇന്നർവെയർ ചെയ്യുന്ന സംരംഭമാണ് ആരംഭിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത്. 25 വർഷം പൂർത്തീകരിക്കുകയാണ് ആ സംരംഭം. ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിനും അകത്തും പുറത്തും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ജില്ലയ്ക്ക് പുറത്തുമുള്ള DDU GKVയുടെ യൂണിഫോം, യുവകേരളയുടെ യൂണിഫോം, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ പ്രീ മെട്രിക് ഹോസ്റ്റലുകളുടെ കുട്ടികളുടെ യൂണിഫോം, ഹരിതകർമ്മസേനയുടെ ഓവർകോട്ട് യൂണിഫോം ഉൾപ്പെടെയുള്ള നല്ല രീതിയിലേക്കുള്ള പ്രൊഡക്ഷൻ അവർക്ക് ഉണ്ടാക്കി നൽകാൻ പറ്റുന്നു എന്നുള്ളത് ഏറ്റവും അഭിമാനകരമാണ്. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലെ കശുവണ്ടികൾ ഉൾപ്പെടെ സംഭരിച്ച് ധനം കശുവണ്ടി യൂണിറ്റ് നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിനകത്ത് പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അവിടെ 7 തൊഴിലാളികൾ സംരംഭങ്ങളിൽ ജോലി ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. സ്ത്രീ തൊഴിലാളികളാണ് 7 പേരും. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ ഹരിതകർമ്മസേന 40 സ്ത്രീകൾക്കാണ് നമുക്ക് അതിനകത്ത് തൊഴിൽ കൊടുക്കാൻ സാധിച്ചത്. ഇന്ന് 20,000 വരെ ശമ്പളം വാങ്ങാൻ പറ്റുന്ന രീതിയിലേക്ക് അവരെ മാറ്റിയെടുക്കാൻ, വിവിധ സംരംഭങ്ങളിലൂടെ മാറ്റിയെടുക്കാൻ നമുക്ക് സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. വീടുകളിൽ പോയി പ്ലാസ്റ്റിക് ശേഖരിക്കുന്നതിനോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ വീടുകളുടെ ആഘോഷങ്ങൾ ഗ്രീൻ പ്രോട്ടോകോൾ പാലിക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടിയുള്ള സംരംഭങ്ങൾ കൂടി, പ്ലേറ്റ്, ഗ്ലാസ്, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ കെറ്റിൽ ഉൾപ്പെടെയുള്ള സംരംഭങ്ങൾ കൂടി ഇതിനോടൊപ്പം കൊണ്ടുപോകുന്നുണ്ട്. കൂടാതെ ജൈവവളം നിർമ്മാണ തുമ്പൂർമൊഴി മോഡല് നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിനകത്ത് ചെയ്യുകയും അതിലൂടെ വീടുകളിലേക്ക് ജൈവവളം എത്തിക്കുന്നതിന് ആവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു പുതിയ സംരംഭം കൂടി നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ ഈ വർഷം ആരംഭിച്ചിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ കാർഷിക മേഖലയിൽ സഹായിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി കാർഷിക കർമ്മസേന ഇന്ന് സംസ്ഥാനത്തെ മറ്റു പല പഞ്ചായത്തുകളിലും പോയി തൊഴിലെടുക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്ന രീതിയിലേക്ക് നമ്മുടെ കാർഷിക കർമ്മസേന മാറിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇന്ന് മണ്ണുത്തിയിൽ, തൃശ്ശൂരിൽ മണ്ണുത്തിയിൽ ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ കാർഷിക കർമ്മസേന അവിടെ കൃഷി ഇറക്കിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അപ്പൊ ആ രീതിയിലേക്ക് കാർഷിക മേഖലയിലും വലിയൊരു മുന്നേറ്റം ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ നമുക്ക് സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. കൂടാതെ ഏറ്റവും എടുത്തു പറയേണ്ട ഒരു കാര്യം, കുടുംബശ്രീയിൽ നമ്മുടെ മുഴുവൻ കുടുംബശ്രീ 360 അയൽക്കൂട്ടങ്ങളാണ് നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിനകത്തുള്ളത്. ഈ 360 അയൽക്കൂട്ടങ്ങളിലെയും അവരെ അംഗങ്ങളെ മാത്രം ഉൾപ്പെടുത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് 6272 ഷെയറുകൾ സമാഹരിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിനകത്ത് ടീം ബേഡകം അഗ്രോ ഫാർമർ പ്രൊഡ്യൂസർ കമ്പനി, ടീം ബേഡകം കുടുംബശ്രീ അഗ്രോ ഫാർമർ പ്രൊഡ്യൂസർ കമ്പനി നമ്മൾ രൂപീകരിച്ചു. ഷെയറുകൾ 1000 മുതൽ 50,000 ഷെയർ വരെ എടുത്ത ആളുകളുണ്ട്. ഈ 360 അയൽക്കൂട്ടത്തിനപ്പുറത്തേക്ക് മറ്റൊരാളും ഈ കമ്പനിയിൽ അംഗങ്ങളല്ല. കുടുംബശ്രീ അംഗങ്ങൾ മാത്രമാണ് ഇതിന്റെ അംഗങ്ങൾ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. 50 സെന്റ് സ്ഥലം ഇതിന്റെ കമ്പനിയുടെ ഓഫീസ് പ്രവർത്തനത്തിനും അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ കറി പൗഡർ ആൻഡ് സ്പൈസസ്, റൈസ് പൗഡർ ഉൾപ്പെടെയുള്ള യൂണിറ്റ് തുടങ്ങാൻ ആവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള രീതിയിലേക്ക് നമ്മൾ അതിന്റെ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ ആരംഭിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞു. ഈ വരുന്ന നവംബർ 4-ാം തീയതി തദ്ദേശ സ്വയംഭരണ വകുപ്പ് മന്ത്രി അതിന്റെ ഉദ്ഘാടനം നിർവഹിക്കുകയാണ്. അവിടെ നമുക്ക് 20ഓളം തൊഴിലാളികൾക്ക് ജോലി നൽകാൻ പറ്റും. കറി പൗഡർ പാക്ക് ചെയ്ത് നമ്മുടെ സംസ്ഥാനത്ത് ആകെ ബെറ്റ് എന്ന പേരിൽ ബേഡകം എംപവർ ടീം എന്ന പേരിൽ വിപണിയിലേക്ക് ഇറക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്ന രീതിയിലേക്കാണ് നമ്മളത് ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ളത്. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ 28 ഏക്കർ സ്ഥലം നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിനകത്ത് കാർഷിക മേഖലയിൽ ഒരു മുന്നേറ്റം സൃഷ്ടിക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി നമ്മുടെ ഈ FPO എടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതിന്റെ ഒരു രജിസ്ട്രേഷൻ നടപടികൾ പൂർത്തീകരിക്കാനുണ്ട് എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഏറ്റവും വലിയ പ്രയാസം. ഇവിടെ പൊതുവെ നമ്മുടെ ഭൂമിയിൽ ഫെയർ വാല്യൂ കുറച്ച് കൂടുതലായതുകൊണ്ട് അതിന്റെ അത്രയും 28 ഏക്കറയും രജിസ്ട്രേഷൻ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ഒരു വലിയ തുകയാവുന്നത് കൊണ്ട് അല്പം കാലതാമസം നമുക്ക് അതിന്റെ രജിസ്ട്രേഷൻ നടപടികളിൽ എടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട് എന്നാണ് അതുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ടുകൊണ്ട് പറയാനുള്ളത്. മറ്റൊന്ന് ഈ ടീംബേഡകം ഫാർമർ പ്രൊഡ്യൂസർ കമ്പനി തന്നെ ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ ജില്ലയിലെ എല്ലാ പഞ്ചായത്തുകളിലും മുനിസിപ്പാലിറ്റികളിലും കുടുംബശ്രീയുടെ മുട്ടക്കോഴിയും കൂടും എന്നുള്ള പദ്ധതി നടപ്പിലാക്കുന്നത് ടീംബേഡകമാണ്. ടീംബേഡകം ഫാർമർ പ്രൊഡ്യൂസർ കമ്പനിയാണ് ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ ജില്ലയിലെ ആകെ കുടുംബശ്രീയുടെ മുട്ടക്കോഴിയും കൂടും എന്നുള്ള പദ്ധതി നടപ്പിലാക്കുന്നത്. അതിനാവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള ഹാച്ചറി നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിൽ പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അവിടെയും നിരവധി ആളുകൾക്ക് നമുക്ക് തൊഴിൽ കൊടുക്കാൻ സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ ബെറ്റ് ബേക്കറി ബേഡകം എംപവർ ടീം എന്ന പേരിൽ ബെറ്റ് ബേക്കറി പ്രൊഡക്ഷൻ നമ്മൾ തുടങ്ങിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതുകൂടാതെ നമ്മുടെ ജില്ലയിലെയും അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ മറ്റ് പഞ്ചായത്തുകളുടെയും MGNREGയുടെ ഒക്കെ ടെൻഡറുകൾ വളരെ പ്രയാസമാണ് പല ആളുകളും എടുക്കാൻ. അത് കണക്കിലെടുത്തുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിനകത്ത് ടെൻഡർ ഒരു ഏജൻസി ആയിട്ട് പ്രവർത്തിപ്പിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി നമ്മുടെ ടീം ബേഡകത്തിന് തന്നെ അതിന്റെ ലൈസൻസ് ഉൾപ്പെടെ നമ്മൾ എടുത്ത് മുന്നോട്ട് പോവുകയാണ്. ഇനി ഭാവിയിൽ നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിൽ ഉൾപ്പെടെയുള്ള എല്ലാ പ്രവർത്തികളും കൂടി ടെൻഡർ എടുക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരു കമ്പനിയായിട്ട് നമ്മുടെ ടീം ബേഡകം മാറും എന്നാണ് അതുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ടുകൊണ്ട് പറയാനുള്ളത്. അതുകൂടാതെ നമ്മുടെ മാ കെയർ, ജനകീയ ഹോട്ടല്, ബേഡകം തുണിസഞ്ചി, ഡിന്നർ സെറ്റ്, പാളപ്ലേറ്റ് യൂണിറ്റുകൾ, ഓക്സിലറി ഗ്രൂപ്പിൽ നിന്ന് ട്യൂഷൻ സെന്ററുകൾ, ഇതൊക്കെ നമുക്ക് ആരംഭിക്കാൻ സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. അങ്ങനെ സ്ത്രീ മുന്നേറ്റം എടുത്തു പറയേണ്ടതാണ്. 125ഓളം പേർക്ക് നമുക്ക് ഈ സംരംഭങ്ങളിലൂടെ മാത്രം തൊഴിൽ നൽകാൻ സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതുകൂടാതെ തന്നെ നേരത്തെ സാറ് സൂചിപ്പിച്ചതുപോലെ വിജ്ഞാന കേരളത്തിന്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ടും DDU GKYയുടെ ഭാഗമായിട്ടും K4 ട്രെയിനിങ്ങിന്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ടൊക്കെ 106ഓളം പേർക്ക് നമുക്ക് തൊഴിൽ നൽകാൻ സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ ഈ ഒരു 5 വർഷക്കാലവും അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ മുമ്പും നമുക്ക് ഒരുപാട് തൊഴിലവസരങ്ങൾ നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിനകത്ത് പ്രത്യേകിച്ചും സ്ത്രീകൾക്ക് പദ്ധതി ഉൾപ്പെടെ വെച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഒരുപാട് ആളുകൾക്ക് തൊഴിൽ നൽകാൻ സാധിച്ചു എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അഭിമാനകരമായ നേട്ടം തന്നെയാണ്. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ JLGകൾ കാർഷിക രംഗത്തും 135ഓളം JLGകൾ നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിനകത്ത് പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഏറ്റവും നന്നായിട്ട് ഇതൊക്കെ മുന്നോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുപോകാൻ കഴിയുന്നു എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഏറ്റവും അഭിമാനകരമായ കാര്യം തന്നെയാണ്. ഇന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു നമ്മുടെ രാജ്യത്തിന് തന്നെ മാതൃകയായ രീതിയിലേക്ക് ഈ ടീം ബേഡകം ഫാർമർ പ്രൊഡ്യൂസർ കമ്പനിയുടെ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ മുന്നോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുപോകാൻ കഴിയുമെന്നുള്ള ആത്മവിശ്വാസത്തോടെയാണ് നമ്മൾ മുന്നോട്ട് പോകുന്നത്. നമ്മുടെ ചെറിയ ഒരു വീഡിയോ ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ തന്നെ അയച്ചു കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. ആ വീഡിയോ പ്ലേ ചെയ്യുമെന്നാണ് ഞാൻ പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുന്നത്. ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ സംസാരിക്കാനുള്ള ഒരു പ്രയാസമുണ്ട്, അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് മലയാളത്തിൽ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുള്ളത്. എന്ത് തന്നെയായാലും ഈ ഒരു സെമിനാറിൽ പങ്കെടുത്ത് നമ്മുടെ കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയാൻ സാധിച്ചതിൽ വളരെയധികം സന്തോഷമുണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ മാം, താങ്ക്സ്.
Thank you, Ms. Danya. She has just highlighted, we will now show you a video, short video, and she has just highlighted all about the enterprises which a Gram Panchayat has done over the last 5 years. And I think we are going over to the video. സൗണ്ട് ഇല്ല വീഡിയോയുടെ.
വോളിയം വരും മാഡം.
The Grama Panchayat named Badadaka as one of the rural Grama Panchayat in Kasaragod district of Kerala. Around 29,000 of people living in this agri-based Gram Panchayat. There are 3 revenue villages, namely Munad, Badagam, Kolattur. There are 17 wards in the Panchayat and it is covered by rivers, namely Payasini, Karicheri and Vavadakam, rivers from the 3 sides of the frontier. Most of the people depending agriculture for their livelihood, directly or indirectly. Among them, major percent are agricultural laborers. There are 42 tribal hamlets. Among the hamlets, 4,800 inhabited. After successful 25 years of decentralization and people planning, the utmost poverty eradicated. Urukutta meetings frequently held and discussed the major setback. Implementation of development activities with the tribal participation saluted house to hold, education to all, and rural sanitation. After a long journey of people planning, Bedadika attained the position of West Panchayat in Kerala. Kerala Panchayat bagged Swaraj Award.
Is this how y'all learn how to fucking scam, you pieces of shit? You scammed my grandma, you piece of shit. You piece of motherfucking shit.
Is this how you make stinky shit in India? Vibration project has been the novel scheme implemented for the last around 12,000 houses have been built through life EMS.
Hey, watch your fucking mouth, you stupid fucking sand nigger. Watch your mouth.
Awas Yojana,
Watch your fucking mouth, you stupid stinky fucking bag.
also is a landmark project in Bedadika Gram Panchayat that address the house to a number of projects implemented in Bedadika Gram Panchayat for the last 5 years that aimed to provide jobs and income to the weaker section, especially women.
Why did you redeem it, huh? Why did you redeem it? Tell me what.
Safalam Cashew Park, Kudumbashree Farm Produce Company, among the best micro enterprises that formed under Women Commandant Plan by Bedadika Gram Panchayat. 10 women employees in Kirti Nutramans, 20 in Kadapuri, around 6,000 women shareholders in Team Bedagam Kudumbashree Agro Farmer Producer Company that address the excellent service of women development in Bedadika Gram Panchayat. Shingari Melam, Bishop Rahida Kerala Hotel, and other micro enterprises.
It's not going to work. I'm going to keep on muting this.
Bedadika formed a farmer producer company of women under Kudumbashree CDS. By the short span of time, the company became the leading initiative in Kerala. The company attained 37 lakhs paid-up capital in year 2020. Besides, the company purchased 28 acres land. Let the company bring a model agreement by starting different major projects. Clean Bedadika campaign, the best campaign in Kerala that brought water sanitation every nook and corner of Bedadika Gram Panchayat. Paper bag, cloth bag, production enterprises that started under the Panchayat offers the best substitute for plastic. Needless to say, Bedagam Gram Panchayat salute sustainable development goals in all aspects.
Isaac, your name isn't Isaac.
You know, there's some interference.
Interference, bitch.
One more presentation, and I'm inviting Libby, Mr. Libby T. Johnson. He's the Executive Director of Gram Vikas, and he was a former Chief Operating Officer of Kudumbashree NRO. So he has got extensive experience in livelihood enhancement and gender empowerment and community-driven programs. So over to you, Libby. 10 minutes. We are already late. And I think something has happened also in between.
Thank you, Nirmala. It's great to be able to listen to a lot of the conversations that happened today. I'll be very quick and try and wrap up my points very soon. Listening to Dr. Isaac, you know, this entire agenda of women's work, which is now part of the unfinished agenda for Kerala's decentralization. I mean, the data that he used clearly says how deeply the inequality is woven into how we define and value work. You know, the patterns, exclusion run along caste, class, education. You know, the higher the social position or schooling, the lower the level of participation. So this is very interesting, and it reminds us of the problem is not necessarily the absence of work, but the absence of recognition. Women are working everywhere. households, farms, collectives, communities, but most of that labor remains invisible, uncounted, and undervalued. What should Kerala do now? I mean, it has excelled in social development and participatory governance, but it has not yet achieved women's economic inclusion. Dr. Isaac's call is for a women employment-linked movement. It's also a call to renew decentralization itself. Panchayats must evolve from being planners of schemes to organizers of local economies. I think that's a very critical development that we need to see. What Kudumbashree has been doing with the campaigns, the recent ones, very promising beginnings, linking skill, dignity, and proximity. I think the next step is for local governments to treat care work, ecological management, home-based production as part of the formal economy. If the panchayats start doing it, if the municipalities start doing it, then I guess the market will also start copying it. Recognition has to move from token welfare to structural design. And the book Vitamamar Thozhilarangathekku actually complements this analysis, and it was quite a pleasure to read that. I also wanted to just contrast with my current lived experience in Odisha. Odisha's women participation, labor force participation rate actually is quite funny. In 2017-18, it was lower than the national average, 15.2 in rural and 13.4 in urban. In 23-24, the State Economic Survey reported 44.7%. Now, is it reflecting real change, improved counting? We don't know. But the fact is, at least the state has taken steps to improve counting women's work, particularly in the agriculture and informal sectors. What matters is the direction. I mean, despite lower education and income levels than Kerala, we are essentially seeing higher participation of women in local economy. The women in on-account enterprises, self-employment, in collectives, managing forests, water systems, running small enterprises, we see that quite a bit. While Kerala has achieved far more in education, health, and governance, the invisibility of women's labor continued to be one. And also, we need to remember that Odisha's work with women's empowerment program, the Livelihood Mission or Mission Shakti, is nowhere near Kerala's in terms of mobilizing women or building a solidarity platform for them. Despite this, labor force participation is arguably better in Odisha. Part of this is explained by the data Dr. Isaac presented. It pays to be poorer if you want to show better work participation rates, particularly of women. Coming back to Kerala, I think it's necessary to look at a few more aspects. And middle class and upper class women have the lowest LFPR in Kerala, which essentially means we cannot have a political or governance reform alone. There has to be some action in the social and cultural space as well. We also need to ask whether the younger generation is seeing work differently than societal expectations. Education by itself, we already saw not guaranteeing economic participation unless it is going to be accompanied by new social norms around dignity of labor, shared domestic responsibility, and flexible pathways for women's enterprises. We have to make it easier to start and sustain small businesses. Our local markets with relatively even spread of purchasing power actually create a real potential for on-account small-scale enterprises. And this is counter to what some speakers said this. Smaller micro enterprises is not trivializing economic participation can. I also want to review quickly Kudumbashree's role in micro enterprise promotion, which I believe there needs to be a renewed momentum. SVEP has been taken across many blocks. I think it's worth examining whether the momentum for enterprise has slowed down, what the next phase of strengthening the pipeline of collective entrepreneurship and viable businesses are. Across the country, we are seeing a rejection of first principles when it comes to expanding women's economic opportunities. The focus of NRLM moving towards targets like Lakpati Didi is actually built on very weak foundations. I am personally, I participated in the Kerala experience during 2006 to 11 when we showed that building strong foundations through institutional strengthening, capacity building, putting in place adequate hand-holding systems. If you do that, results actually start coming on their own. Instead of this, if the focus is put on fancy things like branding and packaging, when the product itself is of very poor quality, enterprises tend to become unviable. Kerala has pioneered decentralized development and built India's strongest participatory institutions. It is time for Kerala to now take the responsibility for the next frontier, which is recognizing women's invisible labor as central to its economy. If Kerala, with its human development legacy, cannot close this gap, poorer states will actually lack both example and confidence. By leading this transformation, Kerala can actually reclaim its role as a prime mover in inclusive and regionalized development, showing that social progress must culminate in economic visibility for women. 30 years after the People's Plan, the next step is not drafting more plans, but seeing more clearly. Recognition itself becomes governance of women's work, of care as infrastructure, of knowledge that sustains every household. I want to close now. We began decentralization by taking the state to the village. Now we must take the village to the home, so that every woman's labor becomes part of the public story of Kerala's growth and a model for others to follow. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Libby, for the very quick presentation with a national perspective. And Sir, Dr. Isaac, sir, would you like to respond to these presentations we had? 6 enriching experiences were shared. Sir, your mic is off.
Yeah, very briefly, and in general, to some of the issues that have been raised. Yes, and the comments from everyone who participated have been very valuable, and I do not have any fundamental difference of opinion that should be that I should contest. No. In fact, the comments all underline the complexity of the problem and the danger of trying to simplify it. The data, unless I have explicitly stated, is all India. Okay, that's very, very clear. Many of the extrapolations, Kerala sample would be too small to make a reliable estimate. So it's just all India, all those curves, graphs, all refer to all India data. Now, a major issue has been, say, the working condition, compensation, etc. in these jobs that are local jobs. Well, all the limitations pointed out are there. But this is only beginning of the journey. Be sure there will be organizers, there will be struggle, and that's part of the consciousness raising and the movement forward. Take, for example, the expansion of trade union movement, the last 1 decade or 2 decades. The biggest expansion has been among the scheme workers, whose wages and conditions are relatively very, very low. Or the biggest mobilization has been the NREG workers. And now the latest in the line has been the Harita Karma Sena. So this is a process, social process. Be sure there are other players who would address these challenges. And that's part of the political development. So I'm not going to be too worried about that. Kerala would be addressing that. Secondly, there is a question that is raised about sustainability of these jobs. No, they are not going to be the same. In fact, this is a transitional period. Kerala, even local economy will have to move to, as I told you, much higher technological base, much more decent jobs, much more remunerative jobs. Therefore, this is a transition phase. So this is not going to be sustainable, quote unquote, in the sense it's going to be the same. No. Third is regarding, say, the aspirations and segmentation of market and so on. Yes, the aspirations of educated are much higher, but my book starts with my startling experience with postgraduate biotechnology informatics. Because the existing women above 40, they're tied to locality, they can't move. So it may not be the same for the future, the students who are getting skilled in the colleges and so on. So there would be still be differences in aspiration, participation, in the present availability of women, labor workers. See, for example, take the present PLFS increase in the participation rate. Everybody employed in subsistence activities, part-time non-remunerative activities at home, and or expansion of such activities consequent upon the post-COVID period. So be sure there will be large number of women who would want at least this kind of job. And let me make it clear. What's my concern? My concern is that there is a process degeneration taking place in the decentralization program in Kerala and certain outcome failures. A major outcome failure is local economic development. Okay, you address it, but addressing this requires a kind of mass mobilization. So women's agency, their employment becomes, which will have a very strong backward linkage to local economic development, an important outcome labs, and also have very significant impact upon the processes involved in terms of participation particularly. And this would provide opportunities for women activists or political moves Kerala towards more greater gender equality. It creates a democratic space for intervention. That's all And sorry, the title is faced beat them up. Nothing negative. That's how they describe themselves. That what is your job? Beat a man, housewife. But now a big role change is being contemplated from being a housewife to worker in the locality. So I think, but maybe we could discuss that. But sorry, no changes can be made because this short handbook for discussion within Kudumbasri. So we have something coming up, then discussion academically on some of the concepts and issues raised. And well, let's see. And look forward to such a debate and discussion. But the practice cannot wait for conclusion of debate. We have some tentative notion, we work in that notion, then learn from the practice and go forward. Thank you very much. It was a great opportunity to make this presentation and hear the comments from the comments given. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And it is a great privilege for me to moderate a session where my professor is speaking. And so we look forward to you, sir, for a social mobilization employment drive under your leadership again, SMO. And
Well, all of you are my students.
all of- most the present your students. Okay. So we are concluding today's session. We will be sharing, the organizers will be sharing a book including all the sessions. And I think probably that gender inclusive local economic development is not only about expanding opportunities for women, it is about addressing the absence of recognition of women in various aspects, addressing care economy challenges, redistributing resources, ensuring equal wages, gender-specific infrastructure, promoting work-life balances, urban-wise rural work opportunities, viable enterprises, major points which has come up. And so I thank you on behalf of the organizers. I just thank you, all the speakers and the participants, for your valuable time. Sponsor Kerala. Once again, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Yes, Malika.
Yes,
I'm in Calicut on 29th.
29th.
Let's meet in the morning.
Okay. When you are coming to Thiru?
Come, we'll have breakfast. Yeah, I have a day program. 29th night, I go to Wayanad.
Okay, daytime will be there, no?
The morning, I'm free.
Okay, sir. Thank you. I'll try to.
Bye, good night,
Yes,
Malika.
Binita. Hello, Binita.
മാഷ ഞാൻ അവിടെ ഇല്ല.
Binita, I don't have your phone number yet. Just send me a phone. I'll call you up later.
മാഷിന്റെ നമ്പർ ഒന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു.
We can
ഞാൻ
discuss
US ഇല്ല.
with you.
ഇപ്പം DC ഇല്ല, വാഷിങ്ടൺ ഇരിക്കുന്ന, നാട്ടിലല്ല. മാഷിന്റെ നമ്പർ പറയാമോ?
എന്റെ നമ്പർ
ഞാൻ സെൻഡ് ചെയ്തരാം.
94477733 94477733
എന്റെ ഫോണും ക്രാഷായി, ലാപ്ടോപ്പും ക്രാഷായി ഈ അമേരിക്കൻ രാജ്യത്ത് വന്നതോടെ. ഞാൻ വിളിക്കാം മാഷെ.
Yeah, thank you.
Dear friends, please join
Okay.
tomorrow. The theme is climate change and disaster resilience. Join with the same link at 8 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, bye, good night.